It has been a long time since I last did a novel review on this channel. I generally have the view that if I'm going to do one of these for a piece of fiction, there has to be something I find interesting enough to talk about in it. And in this case, Trial of Birthright has fit the bill overall. This is the newest work of Michael Ciaravella, my favorite Battletech author, who wrote my favorite Battletech novel, Damocles' Sanction, which is certainly a hard act to follow up, especially considering this new piece of literature is functionally also the direct sequel to Hour of the Wolf, a book I'm not really a huge fan of. In fact, I usually dodge Clan Wolf novels whenever possible, you should know. If Mike is listening, I only read this initially to fulfill my promise made some time ago, after Damocles' Sanction, where I said I would read the next novel you wrote. At first I was worried given that it was a Clan Wolf novel, but we'll get into that a little bit later. I definitely felt as though I had accidentally made a promise that I would regret fulfilling, but this is not the case. In this particular video, you are going to get my rundown and review of Trial of Birthright. It's our favorite part, the disclaimer. I did not receive a review copy for Trial of Birthright. This has been purchased for myself, and I have not been paid by anyone affiliated with Battletech in order to make this review. This video itself is not an advertisement for the book, and it is just my examination of the fiction within and how I rate it. So, with that out of the way, let's get started, shall we? In this non-spoiler portion of the review, I'm going to be going over who the main perspective pieces are in the story, without delving too deep into where it all goes. We're introduced to Darren Wolf at the very beginning of this story, a Republic soldier who fights against the wolves as the planet and Republic is falling all around him. Darren really is the primary protagonist of the story overall. He has to draw on many things from his past to help build his present and to guide himself into his future. The lore master of the Star League and the adjutant general, Noritomo is inevitably the main politician of the story. A former Jade Falcon, now finding himself in one of the most important ceremonial and political positions within the new Star League, he functionally exercises his will and the will of the First Lord as required. Noritomo is an essential character, and is really the other main perspective in the story, after Darren Wolf. Not everyone gets to be the primary figure in Battletech fiction, whether they have a perspective or not, and there is an abundance of secondary characters within the pages of this book, some of whom surprised me even. Especially because I thought some of them would actually be more of the central focus. However, here are the secondary characters you can expect to see within Trial of Birthright. The Conqueror of the Republic of the Sphere, Khan of Khans, First Lord of the Star League, and a bunch of other titles he repeatedly gives himself. Alaric Ward is the master of the realm most of the characters are operating within. He does have important moments in the story, and is probably one of the best parts about it. Not because he's likable, because given how he is mentally, I don't know how that would even be possible, but because of the role he plays in creating the conditions that the rest of the cast have to endure. We do get several perspective pieces from the First Lord though, and they are scattered within Trial of Birthright. The Sakan of Clan Wolf, and functionally its full-time leader, Chance Vickers, is a major figure in the story, just not really as a perspective piece or main character. She has her own interests, and is consistently driving towards them. She represents also the interests of her clan, and she may in fact hold those over what's best for the Star League itself. A competitor to Chance Vickers, Anastasia has to make a series of important decisions within the story, about not only her own future, but about the future of the Star League. She embodies more of a selfless attitude towards the ideals of what is supposed to be being forged on Terra at this time. She is a major side character, as you can imagine. A former wolf in exile, Lana Kell is a member of the Wolf Hunters, and is also another fairly important character within this book. There are many more characters than just these. The number of secondaries, I would even go as far as to say, is a fair bit more crowded than this, and includes a number of former Republic officials and operatives. But I don't really want to spoil much in this section of the overview. So with that, let us move on to the next section. Okay, how do I put this together without spoiling the entire novel? This is always really hard, so you're going to have to forgive me if it seems like I fumble through any of this. I guess I'm going to start with the most surprising thing in the world to me, which is that I would argue that Trial of Birthright isn't really a Clan Wolf novel at all. Or if it is only in the most distant sense. I really anticipated coming into this experience and reading about a bunch of various wolf characters, and while they exist in this particular piece of fiction, they cease being wolves in a lot of cases. Or they seem to be cut from a different cloth, intentionally so. Really, more than anything else, for better or for worse, Trial of Birthright is fundamentally about the New Star League, and its political and ideological framing. Sincerely, I really mean it. At the very center, this novel is about establishing the Star League. In fact, it focuses so tightly on it, I almost felt surprised at how little some of the other players had a role in it overall. This does not diminish this work by any means, but the novel really wasn't wholly what I was expecting. Which is actually a good thing, if I'm honest. So, I will say, for those who watched my Ilkhan's Eyes Only review, yes, Trial of Birthright really does do a better job establishing the new Star League. Something I very much doubted it would before I read it. Interestingly, as a matter of fact, as I mentioned before, really the whole book is about the new Star League. There are twists, there are turns, there are defections, there are struggles to overcome, but inevitably the story itself is the story of the founding, really, of this new league. I will also say this too, and I might be stretching out on a limb, it feels like the Star League 3.0 is being clearly established to be a replacement for some of the good protagonist factions. So if you are a Wolf in Exile fan, if you are an old-school Republic of the Sphere fan, this story is probably intended for your consumption, as in many ways the new Star League kind of carries on the ideals of the Wolves in Exile and of the Republic. It's here to draw folks in who really want to embrace those ideas even, and has some connections to them in ways you might find a little bit surprising. It's really hard to give you much more without kind of spoiling the entire novel, which isn't what I aim to do in this particular part, or even in the spoiler section. If you are interested in the Third Star League, where the Ilkhan era is going, the leadership, or just about political struggles and intrigue in general, Trial of Birthright has a lot to offer you. And with that, let us get into something that is a little bit more revealing in terms of spoilers. So, this is the part where I'm going to, shockingly, give you a little bit more data and specific information about certain events and characters. I want to stress, if you don't want to be spoiled for the novel, please turn off the video now. Now let us begin with the parts I enjoyed the most. The opening of the book, as in not the prelude, but the birth of the new Star League, was a lot of fun to read, just because of the Hell's Horses, to be quite frank. Genuinely, I wish Amaralt had been given a bit more of a better outing, as he's on fire in this book. The Hell's Horses call out Alaric, and it's fantastic to see. I think that a lot of people will be cheering when they see what Amaralt has to say. So, speaking of the Star League, Noritomo Helmer really felt like a standout character in the story. He's basically tasked with doing all of the hard work in regards to rebuilding the Star League, as Alaric is still really managing too many other things to give it his full attention. He's constantly trying to expand the boundaries of what it means to be in said Star League, and trying to embrace the traditions that made it in the first place. He and the cadre who surrounded him clearly want to build some sort of new society that's neither clan nor spheroid, and almost all of the people who join it do buy into it to some degree. Helmer is notable in his scenes for being a pragmatic and practical human being, outside of his almost zealous adherence to the cause. He is also more than willing to deceive and conceal things from other members of the Star League, as he husbands and safeguards his resources for his own projects and plans. Anna Kerensky is the head of the SLDF, a job she takes to no longer be in contention with Chance Vickers or Alaric Ward. She more or less plays a mentor role to the people who are under her command, though. I really enjoyed almost all of the Republic Rebellion portions of this book, especially the bombing of the shipyards, and Alaric's scenes are fantastic for the most part. Again, not because Alaric is likable, not at all, but it's great to see that he's increasingly paranoid, and a detached megalomaniac, which feels very authentic. He's so into himself at this point that he's becoming unhinged. Really, the curse of Devil and Stone, something he focuses on a lot, really is present. Though Alaric, again, isn't really the main character of the novel. He's definitely just a supporting character. The combat in the story is solid. It follows through several trials that Darren goes through, as well as several skirmishes. Also, there's one really key scene in all of this that I really think is the last moment of the Republic, which is when former Exarch Levin makes his speech, urging the people of Terra to lay down their arms. It's very Der Untergang, and it's very well done. You get a measure of the man in ways that I don't think we've seen explored before, too. The Republic in practice and execution, as a storytelling element, didn't always live up to where it needed to be, but Levin's outro, his exit from the stage in particular in this story, really makes one wish the Republic itself wasn't gone, and that's quite a feat in and of itself. Darren, as the lead character, feels like a bit of a mixed bag, not in judging him as a human being per se, but in terms of just how his journey is as a whole. He's really a bridging character, connecting the traditions of Wolf in Exile over to the new Star League, at least in how I perceive him. He also has a major role in the story, obviously, and at the end of it, especially, he handles both internal Star League discord, and also plays a very real part in a major portion of Alaric's story, too. This is absolutely fine, but not all of his scenes worked for me, as I'm really not much of a Republic, Wolf in Exile, or New Star League fan. But that doesn't mean I don't see the value in it, that people who enjoy these things would. But that doesn't mean I don't see value in it, in that I know that people who enjoy these things will very much appreciate them. I'll repeat, a big portion of the story is dedicated to the new Star League, and giving you an example of it and what it's going to look like. And so now I'm going to go over some of the parts of the story that I didn't enjoy. Most of these come down to just taste. The other things come down to a little bit of the writing. In terms of taste, seeing how quickly most of the Republic individuals kind of fold and get pulled into the Star League was a little bit jarring. But to be fair, even in the story itself, Lakewood, someone who joins the new Star League, even mentions that people were more loyal to Devil and Stone than to the Republic and its ideals. It's kind of sad to think about, but if that's true, it makes sense, even if it is a little bit disappointing and jarring. Some of it also applies to Darren himself, I should add, which did diminish a few portions of his run in the book, at least for me. But this is by no means something that ruined the story for me, by any means. The other part is, while I mention this story really stresses the Star League, and it very much does, it sometimes stresses it too much. A few things get repeated just a little too often. The SLDF itself feels a little too rose-tinted too, not just to the past they aspire to, but in its current incarnation. Though I do say this as someone who doesn't really enjoy the Star League in general, whether it's in its original carnation or this new manifestation. That doesn't mean that I outright hate it or can't read about it. I think that some of these sections would have been a little better served if there wasn't a little bit too much of repetitive exposition. There is plenty more that I could have covered in this portion of the review, but I don't think I want to spoil much else. If you really want to get into this, I recommend picking up Trial of Birthright for yourself. It is worth the read overall. It is not a perfect book, and it doesn't cover factions I'm particularly enamored with, but it is still a worthwhile read, especially if you want to see where it all goes. I normally drop books that get too grating, or that I'm not enjoying, but I read through this particular book in its entirety in the first day. I really had to sit with it for a while after finishing it too, just to really sort out how I really felt about it overall. Once I reread some of these sections for this review, it really helped me come to appreciate the piece overall, more as a whole. In short, I recommend picking up Trial of Birthright. We'll see where everything goes from here, my friends. I reached out to Michael Ciaravella with a series of questions for him for this video, and Mike was gracious enough to provide me with some answers for all of you. I hope you enjoy our little Q&A. Given how important this book is to establishing really a lot of the dynamics of the central factions in the setting going forward, at least for a while, and given that it's a follow-up to Hour of the Wolf, what was your biggest concern tackling this piece once it fell into your lap? The biggest concern I had is that the topics I had to tackle are incredibly divisive. It's bad enough when you are writing a source book, which I have also done, but this was a novel. Some people loved the Republic. Some people hated the Republic. Some people hate Alaric Ward. Most people loathe Alaric Ward. Trial of Birthright picks up within hours of the death of Devlin Stone, and goes right into the thick of things, which is challenge enough. I had to deal with the death of the Republic, the rise of Alaric, answering some of the lingering questions that every Republic fan had, build an Ill Clan and a new Star League, and do that while still hitting some fun moments. I know that no author is going to make everyone happy all the time, but for a moment I despaired that I would never be able to tell a story that encompassed everything we needed. After you got to work on the story, what was the most difficult thing you had to tackle? Time. Real life. Human time. A little context. This novel was originally designed, at least the general overview, by a fantastic writer who was going to write the novel, and who helped design these story beats for both the original novel and Ilkhan's Eyes Only, the source book that just released. It was decided at the writers' conference to split the original plan of the book into two novellas/novels, and I was given the chance to do the first. At the time, there was a good amount of overarching story already fleshed out, and Ilkhan's Eyes Only was only a gleam in our eyes. Then 2025 hit. Everything in the world seemed to shift. And once I was able to get back to Trial of Birthright, we were in a completely different place. Ilkhan's Eyes Only was in development. Several other projects were also underway. And as always, some priority items popped up for me regularly. It threw me off my stride more than once, and I literally added 3 scenes to the book days before it was published. I had to try to remain laser-focused on my goals for the story, the requirements of the overarching story itself, and still have some fun along the way. It was definitely one of the biggest challenges I have dealt with as an author so far. What gave you the idea to create Darren as the main lead of the story? Going into the project, I had a few goals. I wanted to give some time to the characters we had not seen for a while, like Anastasia. I wanted to give some time to characters who had not seen as much of the spotlight yet, like Noritomo. I also wanted to have someone we could get to know, and potentially root for. The moral shadings of the Battletech universe are what makes it so fascinating to me, and I wanted to bring someone new into the mix. Darren is a bizarre combination. A clan warrior, a former member of the Republic, a member of the Ill Clan, a member of the Star League. While he is not always the hero, and may not always be in the right, I was hoping for someone people would not instantly want to lose. This is franchise fiction, so some of the story is written with the general needs of the broader story in mind. But what was something you got to contribute that you were really proud of? Big picture, I am glad I got to say goodbye to the Republic era as best I could. It was not exactly what I had originally envisioned, but it was a way for me to remember it, and the Republic era, in a way I hope was respectful of the journey. In specific, I was thrilled to see some of my particular story beats, as well as some of the speeches, landed so powerfully for some. I had a lot of fans post particular screenshots of certain scenes to me, and tell me how much they loved the specific moments. For a writer, this is what makes it all worth it. I really noticed there is a concentrated effort to really make the new SLDF not just a successor to the original Star League, but to Clan Wolf in Exile and the Republic of the Sphere as well. I know you are a big Republic fan. Was this something that you injected into the League for Republic fans, trying to give the faction a legacy beyond its destruction? Yes, I certainly did, but I was certainly not alone. As you know from our discussions at KaranskyCon and Adepticon, and my earlier answer, I was a huge fan of the Republic, as are several of our other development team members, mostly for the ideals that it tried to espouse. As mentioned in the novel, the Republic was built on a certain set of ideals, and in my mind was always created in the spirit of the Star League. With this book, I had hoped to tie the two together in a way that those who missed the Republic could see some of what they loved in the new Star League, and those who wanted to move past it could do so, while still remembering some parts of the journey they may have enjoyed. The Republic era happened. Some of us will miss it, some of us will not. Yet, we went through it together, and I believe we are stronger for it. I hope someday we may look back upon the journey fondly. A final question. Is there anything you want to tell the audience either before or after they've read the book for themselves? Absolutely, 3 things. 1. This is just one piece of a larger puzzle, the next step into the new Ill Clan era. Hour of the Wolf set us up, Trial of Birthright picks up the threads of the story, and the next novel by Tom Levine will tackle another aspect of things. As we know, it has been a multi-year project to get us back to telling the story of Terra and the new Ill Clan, but we are gearing up for a lot more to come. I hope people will stay tuned. 2. I know a lot of people are ambivalent on the Ill Clan wolves, and on Alaric in particular. I certainly do not blame them. But there is a lot of the story left to tell, and as we know, the Battletech universe has its way of adjusting even the best laid plans. 3. Thank you for sticking with us. Every book is a labor of love, and a small part of the glorious universe we all enjoy. Each step forward makes the Battletech corpus a little richer, and I am honored when people take this journey with us. As someone I have come to like has said, I'm glad I was here. I'm glad it was now. I'm glad it was me. I want to thank Michael for answering my questions regarding this particular story. And with this, so concludes our look at Trial of Birthright. Thank you all for joining me here today. If you've made it this far, I think you owe me a like, or a dislike, depending. Also, if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe. Around 30% of you guys aren't subbed, and I'd appreciate it if you followed. It would make me smile. I also really want to say, I think it's kind of funny how skeptical I was that this book would achieve the objectives of fleshing out the new league, but I was just wrong. It's not really my flavor in terms of the factions, as you can probably guess, or even in some of the characters' cases, but you can see the real concerted effort that was put into this book to make it work. And as a result, it was a fun read. Anyway, now that we're at the very end, I just want to give a huge shout out to all of the YouTube channel members who support this channel. I could not do this without you guys. So, with all of that, have you picked up Trial of Birthright? What do you think? Are you going to? Let me know in the comments section below, and I'll catch you all there.